Kick us off? All right, wonderful. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, veterans, Democrats, and those alike. Thank you for coming out this morning. I'm Monica Alcantara, the chairwoman of the Bexar County Democratic Party. I'm also interim co-chair of our Veterans Committee. So we welcome you this morning. Texas is right now, we have kicked off our Deliver Texas tour. So you're going to hear from many of our candidates, electeds, in regards to the fight for veterans. So I am just, not only am I the chairwoman and the co-chair of the Veterans Committee, but my main and most important title is that I'm a daughter of a Marine vet who served twice in Vietnam. And many of my other family members, proud members, are veterans. So I'm honored to be here and speak for them. But thank you. But we're gonna hear from one of our senators who helps in that fight for veterans. He's done a tremendous amount of work to ensure that veterans are spoken for, and he stands up for them. So we have Senator Jose Menendez, who's with us today.
All right. Go, Senator. So I'm standing proudly with veterans who have fought for families to make sure that they have every privilege, every point of gratitude that this country deserves. When they sign up to serve our military, they sign a blank check to this country. So when this country says you're going to get health care, they should get the full health care. When this state says you're going to get educational benefits for yourself and your family, you should get those educational benefits. It's the men and women behind me who have fought to keep Hazelwood legacy benefits in place at the state of Texas. And we need to fight for them and with them, because it is that 1% that puts on the uniform in this country that allows the rest of us to have the quality of life that we have. And I want people to understand, it should not be a partisan issue. But unfortunately, it has only been the Democrats who have delivered for our veterans and their families. And we can talk about it from a state level, we can talk about it from a federal level, with the most recent passage of the federal laws that are protecting our men and women from all of the chemical exposures, whether it be the fire pits or whether it's Agent Orange. We have got to fight to make sure that our vets get the care that they deserve. It's not right for them to come back from the theater of war with PTSD or other issues, and for this country not to stand by them when they sign that blank check to make sure that we have the way of life that we enjoy in this country. Democrats have been delivering for veterans because veterans have always been there for this country. That's why I'm here today, proudly supporting our veterans, proudly supporting all the men and women behind us, and that we need to show up, whether it be in early voting or on election day, to support all of the issues and the people who are willing to go toe-to-toe with all our vets. Our veterans don't need more opioids and narcotics. Our veterans need the medical therapies that they know will help them. I have seen thousands of petitions from veterans asking for the ability to have access to cannabinoid therapies, to medical cannabis, and it's been turned away by our present governor. The local leadership in Austin, Texas has not put their money where their mouth is when it comes to veteran issues. We need to be there. We need to step up to make sure that we deliver a government and leadership in this state that doesn't just talk about veterans and use them as political props, but passes bills so that they can have a better way of life. Now I'd like to introduce a dear friend of mine who's also served on the Veterans Committee, a veteran who's served this community at many levels of government, and someone who knows that it's more than just about talking the talk. Representative Ray Lopez.
Yeah, thank you, my dear friends, for being here and honoring all the veterans that have served before us, after us, that are coming, because that's incredibly important. I think all of us that have served or enlisted at one point in time remember that date. My date was March the 23rd, 1968. A young kid out of Harlandale High School didn't know what the heck he was getting into, but I knew that because my dad had served, my grandfather had served, and even his father had served in the Army, I had to do my part. It was just a generational thing. What I didn't realize is that since then, my son and even my grandson, who happened to be in the Navy, I mean, everybody else was Army, he went Navy, but I won't hold that against him. But the reality of it is, in all seriousness, it's people that have patriotism in their blood that are going out and doing what they need to do for our country to protect the democracy that's today, unfortunately, under siege. I was one of the 57 state representatives that broke quorum a year and a half or so ago. And when we broke quorum for one reason, because we felt without a doubt that democracy was under attack. Now, when we got to Washington, D.C., and we said that, it became one of those, what do you mean it's under attack? I'm able to vote. I don't see that as a problem. But by us going to Washington, D.C. and making this a national issue, the dialogue began and the recognition began. And today I can tell you that the vast majority of Americans, the vast majority of patriots recognize that democracy is under attack. And it's under attack by a small group of people. We can win that battle. We can win that battle simply by, some people say, turning Texas blue. My friends, Texas is blue. Texas is blue. We just need to get the vote out. I think collectively all of us recognize that. The ones that can do that, the ones that have been fighting that fight and energizing individuals to protect our democracy and protect our patriotism have been the veterans. And I think that that's where the call is today. That segment of individuals. And it isn't, when I talk about veterans, it's not just us that actually served and raised our hand. It's our spouses. It's our kids. All of them suffered. All of them benefited by the sacrifices that were made by everyone that served. And we continue to do that. So thank you very much for coming out today. There's an awful lot of work to be done. We can't sit back. It certainly looks like much better today than it did 90 days ago. And we may be in a position to turn this bright blue as opposed to just blue like we have in the past. I'm going to ask John Lida to come up and say a few words. John and I have had an opportunity to speak a lot on veterans issues. We're talking about figuring out ways to make sure that at the state and the federal level, we're able to provide the level of benefits that we can give to all these individuals. The senator talked about burn pit, for example. There are many, many benefits that our veterans are not able to take advantage of, and they are deserving. And you know what? Most of them aren't asking for it. They don't know necessarily that that's their role to ask. They just wait to see, hey, listen, I volunteered, I served, I raised my hand. I'm just waiting for my country to come back and repay that. And we need to collectively make that payment to them. They deserve it. So, John?
All right, man. It's always a great Friday when you're around veterans and community leaders talking about how to serve veterans better. So great to be here with y'all. My name is John Lida. I am a proud son of Military City, USA, like many of the gentlemen and women behind me. And I'm also proud to be the Democratic nominee for U.S. Congress in Texas's 23rd Congressional District. Thank you. I want to thank the Texas Democratic Party, the chairman, Gilberto Hinojosa, the chairwoman of our Bexar County Democratic Party, and all of those Democrats, again, and civilian leaders who are beside me here talking about how we can better serve veterans. And the American GI Forum is here, which I'm a proud member of myself. Thank you. So we gathered here as Democrats to remember our promise that we have made to our veterans. But we also are here to celebrate some recent yet overdue accomplishments, but also to reaffirm our commitment and to recognize that there's still a lot of work that we need to do for our veterans. As a veteran Democrat, I am honored to be at this event to let veterans know all across Texas that in Texas, as and in Washington, the Democrats have their back and we will continue to fight for them. Like many here, I am a veteran of a foreign war. I served 2 combat tours to Iraq, and like many of my brothers and sisters in arms, I am familiar with transitions. I am familiar with long-term service-connected injuries. I'm familiar with the VA's struggle to keep up with our changing medical issues, especially for our rural veterans who live an average of 2 hours away from any medical clinic or medical hospital. So I want to provide, again, it'd be an honor to earn my colleagues on Capitol Hill, and I want to just show an example, actually 3 examples of how Democrats on Capitol Hill are working for veterans. One is that we're working to make sure that not only funding for military hardware is in our defense budget, but also money that will help the personal well-being and development of men and women in uniform. So first, I want to point out that Democrats passed the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act. This act specifically was passed to curb the rising. Sorry, can you hear that? This act was specifically passed to curb the rising instances of military sexual assault. And we're proud to do that because it happened right here in Texas. A Latina veteran was killed, sexually harassed, and ultimately killed. But also Democrats passed an amendment in the Defense Authorization Act that would track white supremacy in our military. This is the whole reason why the GI Forum was invented, so that we can keep our military a place of diversity and welcoming to everybody who wants to serve with us. For our National Guard, our members of Congress passed the Reserve and Guard GI Bill Parity Act. This ensures that our guardsmen and women who are down there at our Texas border, activated for prolonged periods of time, can earn regular active duty GI benefits for the time that they're on active duty. It's only fair if they're out there on active duty, pay them like active duty members and let them earn the same benefits as active duty members. Yeah. And finally, this is one that hits close to home for me. This is for our veterans. President Biden delivered on a campaign promise when he signed the Honor Our Veterans Act into law last month. This is the largest expansion of services to veterans who have toxic exposure in over 30 years. So President Biden, again, is making these moves to connect with our veterans. Democrats are absolutely delivering. And let me say this. Isn't it great to have a president, again, who doesn't think of our veterans as suckers and losers? A veteran who doesn't call American generals my generals? Isn't it great to have a presidential first family that knows what it's like to have a child deployed overseas in the military? I'm thankful for all the Bidens that the Bidens are doing to help out our veterans. Again, I told you about the PACT Act real quick. This does hit close to home for me. I was deployed to Iraq, and I know for a fact that I was exposed to toxic burn pits while I was at Camp Heat. In fact, one of my battle buddies that I was there with, Staff Sergeant Franco Pacheco, caught a very incurable brain cancer, glioblastoma, in late 2020 and passed away from it in December 2021. He was absolutely convinced that his brain cancer developed because of his exposure that we both experienced at Camp Heat. So this one, again, hits very close to me, and I'm glad that Democrats have finally stepped up to do something about that and to serve so many more veterans. Texas Republicans made veterans a political football by delaying this vote, by pulling out at the last minute and having to cost a revote. So this is what we're running, folks. I'm running in Texas 23, which is a district that is overpopulated by veterans. Everybody has an average hour drive of 2.5 hours to a military clinic. A lot of our populations are decreasing, and they want somebody who will stand for them, to bring resources to them versus them having to drive 2.5 hours. So it is my honor, absolutely. It is my honor. That's exactly why I'm fighting for, folks, to make sure that we continue what we started, especially with the Toxins Act. We need to pass the Panama Canal Zone Veterans Act so we can continue the toxic exposure that my friends like Stephen Price are still continuing to fight for. I will enthusiastically vote for that bill as soon as it comes up as a member of Congress. Another area that I want to explore too, just briefly, is to taking our GI Bill back to the original spirit of the Veterans Readjustment Act. I want veterans to have access to small business capital, startup loans and scale-up loans to further empower them. So it's just not about education, but again, taking it back to the original spirit of empowering our veterans once we get back. So those are just a couple of examples of how Democrats in Washington and here in Texas are continuing to partner and step up for veterans. It is an honor. The folks behind me, I know, are going to fight like hell for our democracy this November, to be on the ballot and to continue to serve our veterans. So again, it's an honor to be up here with them. I want to call up my great friend, great activist, and one of my personal heroes, Placido Salazar, so he can continue us the rest of the way. Thank you very much.
Tienes que tirar el grito, Plácido. El grito de libre el 16. Recio. Recio. El grito de San Antonio. Okay, with the sheriff here right next to you.
Hello, my name is Placido Salazar, and this is my son right here, my youngest son, Javier Salazar, Sheriff Salazar of Bexar County Sheriff. I'm a veteran of 20 years in the United States Air Force, fought in Vietnam in 1965, and have paid the price, continue to pay the price
But that's why I continue fighting for our veterans, for the health benefits which we earned and which many times have been denied or reduced. And that needs to be corrected. President Clinton, for example, authorized the unrecognized illnesses that the VA was trying to sweep under the rug. But President Clinton went into action and made that happen. But also the voting in the state of Texas is trying to be reduced by our present governor and lieutenant governor, and that needs to be corrected. They need to be ejected immediately so that we can bring in responsible leadership in the state of Texas, something that the country will not be ashamed of. Leadership that will not be taking advantage of undocumented immigrants who are looking for a better life in our country. We need to recognize that those people need help, and they should not be treated as cattle and just transported to wherever the hell this governor chooses. So please make sure that you register, that you get out and vote. This is a very important election, which we cannot afford to sit home and just let it go by. I do not recommend voting by mail because this past election, thousands of ballots were thrown out because they did not include proper social security number, etc. So I urge you to go and vote in person, regardless of how old you are. Try to go and vote in person. Thank you so much. And remember, vote, vote, vote. Thank you. Thank you, son. Vote Democrat. Well, I wish to introduce my fellow veteran, Miss, what's the name there, Mr. Stephen? Stephen.
Ran out of gas.
Josie Garcia.
She had car trouble.
Oh, she's got car trouble. Okay. Well, who's next? Who's next?
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you so much. And remember, vote.